The desert had a way of making a man feel both mighty and small. Jake Hollander knew that better than most. After 35 years of riding the open range, breaking horses, fixing fences, and drifting from one cattle contract to another, he finally hung up his saddle on a little stretch of land in southern Arizona. Folks in town called him the retired cowboy, half teasing, half admiring. Jake didn't mind. He preferred the quiet. His ranch wasn't much, just a weathered barn, a small adobe house, 2 wells, and a herd that never grew large enough to impress anybody. But it was his, and after a lifetime of dust storms and campfire coffee, that was enough. For years, Jake lived with nothing but his cattle, his old blue heeler, Rusty, and the endless desert sun. He woke at dawn, rode the property lines, fixed whatever broke overnight, and slept with the windows open to let the night wind hum him to sleep. He'd gotten used to loneliness. Or at least, he thought he had. The day everything changed. The summer he turned 65, a heatwave rolled through the region. The ground cracked, the mesquite trees curled, and the cattle crowded the shade like desperate pilgrims. Jake rationed water carefully, checking the wells twice a day. One afternoon, as the sun leaned westward, Rusty started barking. Short, urgent barks that meant something unusual was headed their way. Jake stepped onto the porch, hand shading his eyes. Coming down the long dirt road were 5 figures, women dressed in long skirts, their hair braided, their steps steady but tired. They walked close together, carrying bundles wrapped in blankets. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Out here, unexpected visitors were rare, and ones arriving on foot in the heat were rarer still. When they drew close, the eldest spoke. Her voice was strong, though her face showed hardship. "Are you Jake Hollander?" "That's me," he answered cautiously. "What brings you all the way out here?" She exchanged glances with the others, then stepped forward. "We are widows of the White Mesa Apache community. A wildfire burned our village 2 nights ago. We have lost our homes, and the elders told us your ranch is the nearest safe place." She hesitated. "Will you give us shelter?" Jake's throat went dry. 5 people, 5 strangers, asking him for refuge. His house felt small enough for 1 man. How was he supposed to make room for 5? But then he looked at them. Dust on their clothes, sweat on their brows, grief in their eyes. And he remembered the code he'd lived by all his life. A cowboy doesn't turn away those in need. "You're welcome to stay," he said quietly. "For as long as you need." Relief softened their faces. Rusty wagged his tail as if he'd known the answer all along. New voices in a quiet house. Their names were Nayland, Sanny, Takcha, Dewey, and Hastine. They were all widows, some from illness, some from accidents, and one from the wildfire itself. Though they carried their grief differently, they shared a determination not to be defeated by it. Jake prepared the guest room and cleared space in the attic. He gave them blankets, water, and the food he had. The widows, without needing to be asked, began helping immediately. Sanny, the eldest, cleaned the kitchen with a discipline that impressed Jake. Takcha gathered herbs and brewed healing teas. Dewey took over feeding the chickens. Hastine, the quietest, spent hours tending Rusty's old sore paw. Nayland, who was near Jake's age, inspected the barn and declared it in need of more respect than you've been giving it. Jake chuckled at that. She wasn't wrong. For the first time in years, the ranch echoed with voices, soft singing, laughter, conversation in English mixed with Apache words Jake didn't understand but found comforting. The work that pulled them together. The next morning, before Jake even got his boots on, the widows were already outside. "We intend to contribute," Sanny said firmly. "We will not be a burden." Jake tried to protest, but he quickly learned that arguing with 5 determined widows was a losing game. Hastine helped him check the wells, climbing down with the agility of someone much younger. Nayland organized the toolshed, shaking her head at the tangled mess Jake had let accumulate. Takcha gathered desert plants and taught Jake how each could be used: aloe for burns, sage for cleaning wounds, mesquite beans for flour. Dewey accompanied Jake to round up stray cattle, guiding them with surprising skill. And Sanny repaired 3 sections of fencing faster than Jake expected anyone her age could. Jake found himself doing a strange thing, smiling. Something he hadn't realized he'd forgotten how to do. Stories by lantern light. At night, they shared stories. Jake told them about his childhood on the trail, his years drifting from job to job, and the friends he'd buried along the way. The widows listened kindly, never judging his rough edges. In return, they told stories from their community, legends of white-painted women, tales of old battles, and memories of their lost husbands. Their stories weren't sad in the way Jake expected. They honored the past without drowning in grief. Sometimes Takcha played a hand drum she'd managed to save from the wildfire, tapping a steady rhythm that wrapped around the ranch like a heartbeat. Jake sat on his porch during those nights, lantern glowing beside him, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades: belonging. A crisis on the ranch. 2 weeks after the widows arrived, trouble hit. One of Jake's wells dried up completely. Without it, the cattle would suffer, the garden would die, and everyone on the ranch would be in danger. Jake felt panic clutch his chest. He hadn't planned for guests, let alone a drought on top of a wildfire season. But Nayland placed a hand on his shoulder. "We will face this together." They organized a plan. Hastine and DeWay searched for natural springs. Takcha monitored the animals to ensure none overheated. Sani and Nayland dug a new trench to redirect runoff from the seasonal wash. Hard, blistering work under the sun. Jake worked beside them, sweating, lifting, digging. At some point he realized he wasn't leading, he was cooperating. The widows didn't treat him like a savior. They treated him like part of a team. On the 4th day, Hastine returned with news. She'd found a shallow spring near the mesquite grove. Not enough to supply a whole town, but enough to keep the ranch alive. Together, they reinforced it, built a simple filtration system, and rerouted piping to the barn. When water finally flowed again, Jake's eyes stung, not from sweat. A new kind of home. By the time autumn arrived, the White Mesa community had begun rebuilding. Some families returned to the reservation's temporary housing, others moved in with relatives. The 5 widows received word that a new cluster of homes was ready for them. Jake felt something twist inside him. He tried hard not to show it. "You all have a place to go now," he said softly. "Yes," Sani replied, "but we also have a place here." Nayland added, "We are not leaving your ranch entirely. We will help rebuild our community, but we will return to assist you during each season. You offered us shelter without hesitation. Now we offer you companionship without obligation." Jake swallowed hard. I'd like that." Rusty barked, as if giving his approval. The ranch that became a refuge. In the months and years that followed, the widows visited regularly, sometimes for a week, sometimes for a season. They brought food, herbs, stories, and the warmth of community. Jake's ranch became a place of exchange. Knowledge, traditions, labor, and friendship. Word spread locally about the retired cowboy who lived alone until the Apache widows taught him how not to. Jake laughed whenever he heard the phrase, but deep down he knew it was true. He had given them shelter. They had given him life again. And the desert, once silent, now carried the echoes of cooperation, respect, and quiet healing, proof that unexpected connections could grow even in the hardest soil.